Welcome back to the First Team. I'm Joe DeLeone. Joining me as always, my good friend Ryan Roberts. Today we are going to be breaking down two of the top linebackers in the 2024 NFL Draft on today's Scouting Report episode. We hope you enjoyed your holidays and that this is a nice additional treat when you're off of work. Today we're going to be talking about Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker from Texas A&M, and then the very, very highly debated Peyton Wilson. This conversation is going to be really weird, and I think that we're going to open a chasm of what is going to be a large, highly contested conversation with where this kid should go. All that coming up and more. Ryan, I want to start us off with Edgerrin Cooper. 6'3", 230 pounds, very highly recruited kid, very talented kid who was a part of an underperforming Texas A&M team, but still a really good Texas A&M defense. I liked him. We're going to kind of get into draft projection here. But any just quick background thoughts that you had on him as you recently tapped into his physical profile?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, Joe, I've noticed recently that I have now transitioned from co-host to very good friends. The last two times we've been on a podcast, you've called me your very good friends. That's awesome.
Okay,
man.
I'll call you my co-host then. I'll call you my co-host.
Complimenting you. I mean, after 4 years of doing a podcast together, I'm finally a friend. It's
next show. It's going to be let in. I'm here with some guy that won't leave me alone. Ryan Roberts. That is going to be
so mean. It's so mean.
Some guy who texts me a bunch of random football takes, so I just invite him on here. So
I give you a bunch of early information and intel as well. But yeah,
hey man, you could be making it up. I don't know.
Well, was I making it up this morning, Joseph? Was I making it up this morning? Sorry, Edgerrin Cooper. Fourth-year player. He came in during the 2020 season, so he was a COVID kid the first season. So he's listed as a junior on the roster. So he technically does have 1 year of eligibility. 2021, when he was a redshirt freshman, he was fourth leading tackler on the team despite only starting one game, and I'm pretty sure he made All SEC. This past year, I mean, he was because he's been playing the last 2 years at a pretty consistent note. This past year, though, Joe, in 2023 has been easily his most productive one. I was pulling up his numbers, and they're outrageous, man. Because I mean, he had 61 tackles, 8 tackles for loss as a redshirt sophomore in 2022, but 2023, 83 total tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, which is just a absolutely wild number. So he had a lot of
versatile
tackle for loss production. Yeah, and they use him in a lot of different ways. I mean, I saw him. And we'll get more into the evaluation of him, but I saw him playing Mike. I saw him play out in space as almost like an overhang defender at some points. Like they kind of use him all over the place a little bit. So he was a top 10 recruit out of the state of Louisiana. So a top 10 overall player in the state of Louisiana. Obviously went out to Texas A&M, listed 6'3", 230 pounds. Probably more, just my opinion, probably more in the 6'2.5-ish type of range, maybe 235, somewhere in that ballpark, but pretty highly recruited kid. He's been playing a lot of football for Texas A&M and had obviously a breakout season in his fourth year on campus in 2023.
So I am a big fan of Edgerrin Cooper. I think he's going to be. I hate the my guy like nomenclature and like using that phrasing because I think it's really weird to talk about. But he would fall in that bucket of players who I'm going to be rooting for and players that I think could really boost the profile and the quality of your team. Really explosive. I love the length that he has. And you see with the production that you just talked about there, he's got sack production, he's got tackle for loss production. Because of that length, close down speed, the burst that he has, pretty good change of direction skills, like all of these athletic traits that you bring to the table enable him of when he's in striking distance of a ball carrier, a quarterback, he's going to finish. He's going to get that. He's going to get that sack, the tackle for loss. I don't think his eyes are bad. I don't think that he's a guy that is, can't process and can't make decisions, because there's times on film where you see him make some really good reads and make some really good plays, and he's really aggressive, but he's very inconsistent. He's really inconsistent. And it's not like that this is a third-year player who's playing his first season as a starter or something along those lines. You just talked about there the amount of experience that he has. Could he improve his processing? Absolutely. But I have a little bit of pause where I feel like he could fit into that first round conversation. But because of that lack of consistent processing where he's really slow to trigger and make a decision, or completely misreads and falls for a fake, something along those lines, that leads to him being out of position. That kind of stuff pushes him a little bit down my draft board, but I think that regardless, he's somebody you throw into a defense and as a rookie could put up some really good numbers.
I'm very interested going back to his 2022 film because I've only seen 2023 film of him. I've heard of him before the season. Actually, I believe Lorenz had recommended him for RPM like last year in the beginning of the year during his 2022 season, but I haven't seen his 2022 stuff at all because I'm very interested to see how much the processing has improved from 2022 to 2023 because that's like the hang up with me. It really is because I'm a linebacker guy, Joe, and it's very easy to fall in love with his traits because his traits are great. They really are. I mean, 6'2.5". It's going to have plus length at the position. He can move sideline to sideline. He has really good explosiveness. He's really good in a straight line. And he's also pretty twitchy, kind of changing direction a little bit, man. Like I see him out in space a little bit, and I think he can redirect pretty well. And you see when he's rushing the pass, where he's able to kind of bend his body and contort his body in certain ways, where he's able to kind of finish plays in the backfield. So athletically, it's great. I mean, really, like he's a early starter on the NFL level just based on physical traits. His eyes are very maddeningly inconsistent at times. And that happens also in coverage too. It's not even just being able to run fill and just kind of being in the right gap and understanding where a puller's coming from and, you know, a down block and who's coming at you and being able to resolve that issue at the point of attack. It's also in pass coverage. Like I'm watching like mesh concepts go around him and he just kind of gets lost in the sauce a little bit and doesn't really know where kind of his eyes should be going compared to just reading a quarterback's eyes to the zone discipline aspects of the game. So I think there's a little bit of a developmental feel to me with Edgerrin Cooper. That being said, the traits are great to work with, right? There's going to be a fine line with this type of kid where there is going to be a point where it's too early to draft him because there's going to be too high of expectations in year one that he's going to be able to just be that guy, right? Like I do think that he needs a little bit of good coaching. I think he needs a little bit of good development. I think he needs a good, solid linebacker coach on the next level to get the most out of him. It's going to be about being a little bit patient with Edgerrin Cooper. If you can be patient with him, I think he has plus starter upside. Like not just starter upside. Like I think that this could be a plus starter at either Mike or Will as well. Like I think he could be a modern Mike. I think he could definitely play Will also with the explosiveness and the ability to play in pursuits that he has as well. But I think it's going to be a lot of patience that's going to be needed with Edgerrin Cooper because he's just process. It's not even like that he's a slow processor. It's that his eyes go to the wrong spots a lot. And so that's a little bit of a concerning thing, but it can be fixed. It's just about patience and good coaching at the end of the day.
He's one of those guys like you're talking about here. I need to see him go to a team that has a history of developing good linebackers. You know, like I can't. I'd be really afraid of.
I want him to go to an attack system early where they're just like, we are going to blitz you, we are going to trigger you, pre-snap, and we are going to make sure that you're getting downhill as much as possible. If they do that, I think that they have a chance to get a lot out of him as a rookie potentially.
My immediate thought was that this is a Wink Martindale linebacker. Like that's the first thing that comes to my mind is like this feels like there's a history of these linebackers that Wink Martindale and the Baltimore. He's not going to go to the Ravens because they've stockpiled linebackers for the past couple of years. They have two of the best inside backers, and they also just drafted Trenton Simpson. So they're probably not going to take somebody, but somebody like the Giants with a good defensive line in a creative defensive system with Wink Martindale. Like we look at his history with just athletic guys, turning them from athletic guys to aggressive, very talented linebackers. I mean, Patrick Queen kind of fits that description of really athletic, and it's taken him a couple of years to like really get there. And now we're starting to see because the surrounding group around him has enabled him to actually play to his true capability because he's got a good Mike backer next to him with Roquan Smith, and then he's gotten all these defensive linemen there in front of him. That's the other part of this too. I'd be really disappointed if he ends up on a team that doesn't have a good defensive line because I'd be really worried watching him just get knocked around because he's trying. That first season is going to be really brutal if he's getting defensive linemen driven into him while he's trying to make decisions because then he's screwed. I think that his growth
that happens sometimes.
Potentially
it happens sometimes on film. That's happened to him. Just kind of watch him at Texas A&M because, like Joe, it's even as simple as like there's one play think it was against LSU. I can't remember, but there was a front side down, two down blocks. So guard block down, tackle block down. They pulled the backside guard and backside tackle. So the guard was pulling and kicking the defensive end, and then the tackle was going to pull underneath on like a power look. And Edgerrin Cooper actually had really good eyes there. He saw what was happening in front of him. He filled the right gap. He took on the puller. I was like, awesome. But he attacked the wrong shoulder of the puller, and that kind of just pushed him into the wrong gap ultimately, right? Like, it's just the little nuances of playing the position that I just think he needs help on. It's actually an interesting comparison. He's bigger than Patrick Queen, but like, Patrick Queen's not a bad comp, because if you remember at LSU, like, it was like Patrick Queen was only a 1-year starter, and it was like, Patrick, be aggressive, get downhill and blitz. That was your job. That was your job. And in that role, he was very good. But like you said, Patrick Queen the first couple years, and I remember saying this before that draft, because we were doing the podcast at that point. I remember saying that. I'm like, dude, Patrick Queen is not ready today to be a starting inside linebacker in the NFL. And he struggled very early on in his career. Luckily, he went to a place that was patient with him. That was like, okay, a couple years of bumps. Now we're going to come out on the other side, because the talent was never the issue with Patrick Queen. Like, it's going to not be the issue with Edgerrin Cooper. It's just going to be about patience and fits. If he finds the right spot, he could be Patrick Queen. But if he finds the wrong spot, and this is my concern, he could be Jared Davis. And that's not what you want to be.
Oh my God. Is that what your comp was? Is that what it was?
I mean,
physically, you told me you had a comp.
Physically, yeah. It's like, because I think comps are important, because it also can kind of tell stories of players. But I also think that we can also do this sometimes, where it's like, there's a best case scenario comp and there's a low end comp, right? And like, my low end comp would be Jared Davis, because Jared Davis had every trait in the world. He went to a bad situation and he never got fundamentally better.
And it's an even worse situation now, because that whole defensive line's gone, except the interior guys.
Exactly.
So, okay, here's my thing with Cooper to round him out. Day 2 pick for me. I really don't think that this year at all we're going to see a single first round linebacker. Like, I don't think that there's any, especially now that Barrett Carter is out of the mix. I was a bit iffy on Barrett Carter, and he was more of a day 2 guy for me. I hadn't watched.
Imagine being wrong.
Film, but
imagine being wrong. Could
shut
not
up,
be me, dude.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Edgerrin Cooper, though, as we're talking about here, athletic enough for a team to take him in the 2nd or 3rd round, and then him develop into a plus starter, as you're talking about. I hope he goes to the right situation. I really do. Yep. I have a feeling he's probably going to finish in my top 5 linebackers, because I really don't see that there's again, we have a lot of guys in this linebacker class that decided to go back, or just already wasn't talented. I am already so out on the Barrett Carter shit. We need to stop. We need to stop with Barrett Carter. I think I had a top 100 in the summer, and
Are you talking about Jeremiah Trotter? Are you talking about Trotter? Or are you talking about Carter?
Oh, Jeremiah Trotter. Sorry.
I was like, Carter went back to school. Why are we done with him already?
Not Barrett Carter. Jeremiah Trotter. That train should not have get on the tracks, but he is the prototypical undersized, not that athletic linebacker that is going to get overhyped. He's going to be this year's Ivan Pace. We already got a comment. Somebody commented on the video we did on oh my God, on Jeremiah Trotter. Somebody already went and commented, with Ivan Pace the way that he played, are we still worried about the size concerns? So I don't want to take us down that rabbit hole.
Ivan Pace had a couple solid weeks for Minnesota. Can we act like he's like this Pro Bowl, like legitimately good starter yet? Like, can we just calm down a little bit? Can we please do it? Joe, my take here, though, is if you told me that there was a linebacker that ended up going in the 1st round this year, my prediction would be Edgerrin Cooper. It would be. I think it would be way too high. I agree.
I almost put him in my mock draft. I think
he's a mid-day 2 prospect right now. So late 2nd, early 3rd rounds, I would be okay with him in that range, because there are tools to work with, but I want to be slow with him. Let him play special teams. Let him back up 1 to 2 spots early on as a rookie. Rotate him in, and then year 2, that's when we hopefully get the best version of Edgerrin Cooper, year 2 to year 3. That's, I think, the optimal situation, because he's still a younger guy, despite being a 4th-year player. I think there's a lot of upside to him. I just don't want him to get thrown into the fire too early, because when you throw guys into the fire too early, there's 2 things that happen. Either they are resilient and they come out on the other side better than ever, or they falter because they just weren't ready for
Mm.
that type of pressure. I don't know which one Edgerrin Cooper will be, but I would rather stay safe with him and develop him and utilize his skill sets early and then get put more and more on his plate as he gets comfortable.
Feels like a Dallas Cowboy if he goes in the first round. I don't. I can't. I mean, I don't know if it's just
Dude,
Texas to
they're in a
Texas.
bad situation. I mean, we never know what free agency is going to what free agency is
Yeah.
going to bring or whatever. But yeah, man, I mean, they're desperate now with the Leighton Vander Esch issue, and I mean, and ultimately, like Micah Parsons is playing so good on the edge. Like, I just don't think you want to move him back to linebacker a ton because he's just more rare on the edge than he is at linebacker, right? So they're in a tough situation right now. I mean, they're
Tough.
they're trying to figure it out. But I mean, Damone Clark, I think, is playing inside linebacker for them right now, who I didn't hate coming out of LSU, but it's like still a downgrade compared to what you had with Leighton Vander Esch, obviously.